A little taste of Betrayal. Part 3 of Trilogy of Modern Vampire Groups. Developed for Lit2 Animate. Written by Zachary Cooper.
So, are you tired of her not learning how to give you an arm yet?
Zook asks Zant, with a half smile, while Zant still has a smile plastered onto her face. Tonight Zook and Zant are saying goodbye to a new colleague. She has research to do. The young vampire named Tina gets into one of Zant's private planes. Zant answers without losing her fake smile on her face, waving to Tina behind a window.
If that woman doesn't learn some anatomy from those doctors, and come back here with some theories on how to give me the arm back that I lost a year ago, I'm going to start getting irritated with her. This whining and dining is getting tiresome. She seems grateful enough, but I think she is starting to get the hint that all this good treatment hasn't been free. I'm expecting her to meld an arm back on so that I don't have to keep talking to people in my company with this pretend arm under my clothes.
She is off to speak with some vampiric dermatologists, yes they are out there, and doctors, to help her figure out a couple of problems that they have. Zant, the boss of the vampires in the city, has allowed her to use one of her private jets, and a comfortable place to live. Tina's creator is currently unavailable, due to some enhanced interrogation, and she needs to find another source of information. Other sources of info, well, they refuse to comment as well. Zant stands on a personal runway with Zook, watching Tina sit in her plane about to take off, both watching her as though she was one of their kids going off to college. Zant is wearing a new pantsuit designed for her with a little extra room on a side for a fake arm she has been wearing for some time. She previously needed to have a whole new wardrobe tailored after she lost the arm, and Tina is her hope of getting another one back. Most of the important stuff, nerves, and muscles were all there, just cut off at a certain point. That arm did rot pretty quickly, so it probably can't be reattached. She drops subtle hints to remind Tina of the request, and is losing patience. Telling people it is a new fad she is trying hasn't worked, but her use of the blood power to prevent others from asking more questions has also been annoying. Zook speaks up for her.
She'll figure something out. If she doesn't, you can cut her off till she figures out something. You have been pretty nice to her. She's also a baby vampire, she's learned a lot.
Zant looks over at him as the plane takes off.
You think I don't know that, Zook? She is one of the only ones with us that might help me. If she doesn't figure something out soon, she will regret wasting my time.
He continues.
She isn't going on a pleasure cruise, she is getting info for you, and the new patient. Sure, if she comes back with nothing, you can cut her off, whatever.
A low-pitched growl escapes Zant's lips, as they warp into a strange smile. Before getting out of sight, Tina is waving from the plane as it is spinning to get to take off, and they both wave back, faking to be happy enough, and walk back to their cars to get out of there. Zook looks at his phone for some calls for the night, sees 2 missed calls, and checks his messages. He hears one message of a man trying to find out if his wife is cheating, perhaps, then another was a woman calling him for help with a break-in. The woman's voice was melodic, but full of need. Well, the cheating wife is something he can dig into over time, the break-in is something he'll need to try to find out more about sooner than that. If he is being called, the cops were already called, and something is missing that might be either extra important, or extra not legal, aka, more fun. He calls that client back saying he would like to meet in his detective office downtown in a couple of hours. Zook is driven towards the city, away from the airport by one of his few employees, Bud. His driver is a blood-fueled human, known as a ghoul, driving him in his custom-made town car. There is not much different about Bud than when he was a regular human, other than he was a bit stronger, and will live longer to help Zook out. His car is a small limo with a couple of liquor bars in the middle rows, and a few custom things to try to prevent someone from doing something around him. Custom-made bear traps are set to punch out from behind the seats at the push of a button, and after some suggestions from someone who had the ability to hide, he set some other tricks in the car. Don't be gross, Of course there is no blood in the bar. It is for clients, not him. Blood doesn't last outside of the body without a fridge anyway. It doesn't fill you as needed and has a terrible aftertaste. Just think what the cops would think if his car was searched already. The blood would be a questionable addition. Bud is up front listening to his audiobook. On decent drives they had a couple they often listened to, unless Zook is sleeping. Bud has his own for trips or waiting on Zook during his special group meetings, and whatnot. They are on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, again. Bud asks,
"Hey boss, I've been wondering, where does the answer come from? Did you ever figure it out?"
Zook answers,
Through the magic of technology, yeah. I had that question in my mind for a long while, after I read the book. I never would have figured it out, but when it came up in my mind a while ago, I used the internet to look it up. Out of the many options figured out, I like the addition of each letter of the alphabet, to B. T is 20, O is 15, B is 2, and E is 5. It sounds like if he actually came up with that, it could be darn coincidental, but it might have just been a mystery number. I've read somewhere he just said that it was a number picked out of nowhere. The answer to life, the universe, and everything, is, to be. Something so simple, and poetic about it. Bud answers,
"Sure, boss."
They have to get back home to check on things. Steve, Zook's other employee, is still recuperating and training the new pooch, a mid-sized German shepherd with one ear flopped down, the other is straight up. The dog's name is Bite. Steve is still trying to build on his ability to speak to Bite, and Bite is still working on understanding English outside the use of the blood power. Bite, and Fluffers, an orange and black striped tabby cat, recently joined the family, are getting along fine as well. They tried to fight a bit at first, but Zook put a stop to that pretty quickly. They left again, and got to Zook's city office shortly before the likely new client is going to come in. He didn't get into the office much, other than to meet up with clients for the first time, then they usually meet in different places. He has a wood-stain color-framed door, and an opaque glass entrance with his name painted onto that, which is fading. There is a small room beyond the main door. It looked like a sort of waiting room, with a basic couch and desk. Zook has a cup-by-cup coffee maker in the room as well, next to the desk, ready if anyone wanted some. A smell in the room made it think like it is recently used. The way beyond is blocked by another basic wooden door, into a larger room where clients can go over their troubles. The floor looks like wood, but a quick observation noticed that the floor is covered in a fake vinyl material that gave the impression of wood, but for ease of cleaning. Bud starts by checking the room for electronic surveillance, and any other strange things, while Zook gets prepared to see the client. They need to be more careful than most, they don't have security for the building. Shortly after, a woman comes in and introduces herself as Patricia Moorhead, an accountant for some law firm. Coincidentally, the firm is a few buildings away, and she needs Zook's help. She looks like she hasn't slept in a couple of days, looking distraught and worried. She has blonde hair, her eyes are brown, and there are wrinkle lines on the sides of them, showing she has been crying. She asks him not to say anything about her name. She has heard all the terrible jokes, and he assures her that he is very professional, even though the jokes were rattling through his head. With the soothing voice that she has over the phone, Zook thought that she would be a vision of beauty, with long flowing hair, deep eyes, and great skin, but she is practically the opposite. She doesn't look like she gets much sun, and her hair is not brushed, or probably even washed in the last few days. She is wearing a wrinkled t-shirt, loose slacks over her legs, and she smells like she has been drinking recently, and a decent amount of it. The t-shirt doesn't fit the pants in style. It looks like she is wearing the pants from work, and with a different shirt after a rough day. There is some raw beauty to her though, some character under the exterior of not enough water, shower time, wrinkled shirt and pants. She has a damsel in distress situation going on, and she needs help. Even though first impressions were not great, he isn't a picky guy. He knows external beauty can be temporary, and he didn't need a perfect body to be interested, at least in the back of his mind. She is standing across Zook's desk, looking nervous, her eyes darting around, either inquisitively, or in fear, and is taking her sweet time in getting out what she needs. He asks her to sit down. Bud is going around the room using some device that the client hasn't seen, but there is some beeping and squeaking from it. It is a device to search for bugs around a room. At least every other night they make their way into the office, and they check it for bugs and other tech, like cameras. They didn't keep much here, so hiding anything around the place would be a chore.
Look, lady, we are losing the night here. You can spit it out. I've heard everything.
She still has the look like he shocked her with a taser from the abrupt request. Patricia asks,
You sure that guy has been careful about searching for listening devices?
Seriously? I'm a private investigator, and he's one of the best. It is a big thing we do, just spit it out.
Okay, fine. I've been cooking the books.
Zook raises his hands, and calls out,
And the truth shall set you free. Well duh, you are an accountant, so you are embezzling from the law firm. What do you need?
From the law firm? Oh crap, no way, you think I want to get myself killed? No, I'm taking from a gang in the city. I've been handling a decent amount of their cash, and fencing their criminal pursuits for a while now. They still don't know, but someone has taken a couple of my important books. I mean, they also took my DVDs, game systems, and games, but all that is insured. No, for some reason they took my extra books, keeping track of some of that extra cash. If the gang hears about it somehow, yeah, they'll probably kill me, but they aren't the law firm, thank God. Those guys are ruthless.
Zook raises an eyebrow.
Okay, we'll get to the law firm later.
He asks for details.
Sure, got it. So embezzling from a gang, there are a few of those around the city.
Zook fuels his blood power to try to manipulate the victim, making eye contact and speaking clearly, in this case, to help her. Sort of.
I need to know more. You can tell me the truth, which gang, how much we are talking about, so we can figure out how angry they'll be if they do find out. Would you be able to give them the money back, and who is your fence?
Rattling off questions like they are a set of instructions that he easily expects to be told. Seconds later, out of Pat's mouth.
The kooky 50, I don't remember how much, between about 7 and 10,000.
Her eyes widen, surprised at her truthful reply.
I've spent some of it, but most can be paid back. Sue is my fence, she works for Sammy.
Pat covers her mouth, her eyes widen, and she coughs a few times. Now it is Zook's turn to be surprised.
Oh, you know your fence works for Sammy?
How are you doing this? I wouldn't tell you.
Fueling his blood power again.
Don't think about it, I just have one of those faces. I'm just getting things moving, you are the one talking. So, a quick description of what I'm looking for, and a quick little contract to note that I'm working for you. It doesn't say why, just proof that you asked for my help, and I plan on helping you.
Zook has a default contract to give clients so that he gets paid, and has proof he is doing a job just in case someone comes asking. He pulls a blank one off his stack and hands it over for the client to sign. She looks it over, checks the cost, and signs it. Zook gets up telling her he'll get right on the problem, and will keep in touch. After closing up shop at the office, Zook is back in his car with Bud.
Hey Bud, did you find any there today?
Yeah, looks like this could be police issued, but you know how easy those can be to come by around here. Do you dig the new client? She looked a little clumsy tonight.
Yeah, I like the way she looked, there is just something about her. It is sort of, damsel in distress, meets nerdy. Wait, what is that new animation recently, the red-haired, Viking princess one?
Really, boss? If you haven't seen it, neither have I. As a heterosexual, over 40-year-old, American man, it isn't one of my usuals. That woman in the courthouse was pretty sexy though, beautiful body, and a nerdy vibe. She was drunk that night too. She let loose that night, man. She really didn't like her ex-husband.
Not one of your usuals? You might think one of my human friends might have more time to have their thumb on pop culture than a guy who sleeps all day. You get that woman's number or email?
Nah, it was fun, but I felt like I was getting the hate sex, which was A+. She came with a lot of baggage though.
Zook continues from earlier stuff.
Hell yeah, she did. So, a possible police-issued bug, huh? Hopefully, that isn't from, well, it could be from a few different cops, but I hope it isn't from him. I haven't been able to find him at the precinct since a few nights ago. I think he suspects me of, well, you know. Anything else, camera or something?
No boss, just that. I broke that once I found it, no other surprises.
Zook goes over the possibilities in his head. There is a cop who suspected him of being himself. There were some others in the organization that might want to spy on him a bit, but some might be more direct than using tech these days. He didn't put anything past anyone. It could have been that new client, trying to find out more about him. Never mind, he thought to himself, rabbit hole. He tells Bud.
Let's work with what we have. Let's see if we can get a hold of Sammy. He might have gotten sloppy if some client knows he handles offense. I'll give him a call to see if we can talk tonight.
Sure, he has the local mob boss's phone number in his cell. It isn't something to morally be too proud of, but it is something that should be known if a modern vampire wants to know the right people these days. He picks the coded contact, and dials him up.
Hello?
Hey big guy, it's Z, you have a bit to chat?
The voice brightens.
Oh hey man, sure you can come on over. It is getting a bit late tonight though. Might this take a bit?
Probably not, be there in about 20 minutes?
Oh sure, I'll be here with bells and whistles on. Wait, do you know what the heck that phrase is from?
Zook rolls his eyes.
Oh my god, I'm not your walking encyclopedia. I'll see you in a bit, look it up yourself.
That isn't what the kids do these days, Z. They tell you to Google search it.
And that is why kids these days can't remember anything.
After those last words, he hangs up. About 20 minutes later they pull up to the golf course, which Sammy runs, and make their way up to the road to the recently repaired clubhouse. It had to be repaired from the last shootout that happened there after Tina was taken a while ago. Ah, the memories that run through his head. You don't forget the first kidnapping in front of your eyes that isn't you. Oh crud, he just realized where he recognized the client's eyes, as they pulled up to the golf course clubhouse. Zook knocks on the door, opening it shortly after is a face he recognizes, and it smiles at him.
Oh, hello Tiny.
He says to a large man looking down at him, and he looks up without a care in the world. The big man asks as a smile appears on his face.
Where is that nice lady friend that came with you last time?
Zook spends blood into a blood power to increase his speed, only by the little bit he has been able to build over decades. With a lightning hand, he reaches up to grab Tiny's collar and yanks him down, whispering to him, their faces nose to nose.
Hey Tiny, if you see her again, if those naughty thoughts come into your head, you better not let them escape your lips.
The big man tries to struggle, but the grip is stronger than it looks. He replies with a smirk.
What, you going to come back and beat me up?
No, she doesn't need defending from me, it is just a friendly suggestion. She can rearrange that pretty face of yours into a work of art.
Zook says this with such conviction, patting Tiny's cheek lightly with the palm of his hand, that Tiny's face blanches a little.
Yes sir, the boss is inside.
Zook answers in a regular tone and voice.
Excellent.
Walks past him, opens the door, and is not stopped. Sammy stands up when Zook enters, with his arms wide.
Hey Zook, did you get that thing I sent ya?
No, I didn't, I never get that thing you sent me.
Zook answers with a confused face. Sammy's face twists in confusion as well, actually remembering a gift he sent. Zook's lips straighten into a smile, shortly after that, though.
Old and expensive scotch isn't usual for me, but I have been able to get a few clients, and some extra charge out of it.
He says with a smile. Sammy answers.
You old bitch, I know it isn't a drink of yours, I know your favorite, or only drink, however, you might be able to use the gift, man, I appreciate the help that night. I can't just send you your usual drink, can I?
This regional mob boss in town knew Zook is a vampire, he has saved his life recently, and owes him a favor. Sammy is a ghoul, a blood-fueled human, of another vampire from a different city, created quite some time ago. Chapter 2.
Hey Sammy, we have a little problem.
Zook says, sitting down.
What is this problem we have? Name it, my good man.
Sammy answers with a smile.
One of your friends, named Sue, she's been taking care of a recent client of mine. You know what she does?
Sammy nods. Zook continues.
She sounds to be a little loose-lipped because a client of mine knows about you, from her. I need to talk to her a bit. I need to find out if she has been messing with a client, giving out a little info behind her back and all. Not asking for money back or anything, just need to know if she told anyone, and who she might have told.
Sammy's face quirks in serious thought.
Sue didn't tell me about anything she is trying, and we'll be talking about how many of her clients know about me, but if you think one of my friends is being naughty behind my back, I don't mind getting her here at all. I can get her here tomorrow night. Do you want me to find out anything from her, or do you want to check with her?
Oh, you don't need to do anything really, just get her here so we can talk. Don't tell her about me, just get her here. Just a friendly hangout early at night. Make it a party, celebrate whatever, like this new clubhouse being built. I'll help you with her problem with giving out a bit too much info about you as well. You won't need to worry about that unless you'd rather handle that differently.
You are the man. Done. I'll get things going for tomorrow night. Do you need anything else?
Zook is surprised that it is such an easy conversation, but it certainly looks like Sammy is in a good mood, or perhaps he is about to find out if others knew about him, with free help from a vampire. Probably decently likely that it is the blood bonding as well. Anyone, ghoul, human, or vampire, is affected positively by those who taste their blood. Zook politely refuses anything more and gets out of there. He has to make it home before it gets too early. He is done at Sammy's place. He gets back into his car and gets comfortable. He asks Bud.
Hey Bud, are you pondering what I'm pondering?
I think so, boss, but where are we going to get a new outfit for the dog at this hour?
Zook chuckles and answers.
Thanks for that. No, we have to get back home. Get us back to the complex that Zan owns, so that we can relax for the day. We have a party to come to. We have to come back here to speak to Sue, to get a little more info.
Got it, boss. Back to the temp home.
He drives out of the golf complex, and back to their safe home. It takes them about 30 minutes to get back to the complex that is owned by Zant, the boss of the city, and they are staying in one of the cookie-cutter homes while their new place is being built, and their old place is being sold. They coincidentally have one of the storage complex units that were a part of the storage complex debacle, where he lost some colleagues he knew for a few decades. He needs to move because too many people know where he lived not long ago. His place has been broken into by an old colleague, who is still at large. The boss knows where he lived, and so did some of her employees, and too many others. They were security ghouls who came in to help him after the break-in. He has to build another place with a basement safe room. He likes having a man cave. Having storage containers set as rooms works pretty well also as a shell, and those were all over the place. He is happy to use them in a better way than them just being garden ornaments around the country. While his new place is being built, he is staying in one of Zant's safe houses that she bought, out of a complex she owns. Visiting vampires can ask to stay in one. They were basic places for their employees or retainers to stay in while they sleep, and they have safe rooms underground with ways to try to make sure they are not easy to get into, and not easy to try to hide within while visitors are in town. They get there, and Zook checks in again with the recent animal additions, goes downstairs to the secret room, soon after that, to get ready to sleep during the day. That next night, he wakes up and gets clean for Sammy's hangout. He checks his phone and sees that he has a text from Sammy inviting him to the party. He also has some messages from the client, and he wants to get back in touch with her. She left 3 messages. She has reason to be worried, but he is working on things and would check in. He calls her line, and after a couple of rings, she answers.
Why haven't you called me back? I've been waiting most of the day. What are you, some sort of vampire?
She asks this with a shiver in her voice, a quiet intake of breath on her side, that gives him goosebumps. He answers.
Look, Ms. Moorhead, I've been on the case. I have a couple of leads I'm working through tonight. I cannot call you back every few hours if I find something out. Are you okay?
She answers, audibly calming.
I'm fine, but I'm worried. I couldn't sleep last night and called off today, shivering on the phone like I have the flu, but I am mostly, slightly. Never mind. Can you come by? I want to hear details.
Sorry, Patricia, I have a party to go to, and it starts fairly soon. I'll be by to check on you when I can. I'll let you know about things when I can.
He separates his phone from his face, and is about to hang up when he hears.
A party? You are going to a party, while I'm shaking in my apartment, nervous?
He rolls his eyes, puts the phone back up to his mouth.
Later tonight.
And hangs up. Leaving his tiny, not-so-secret man cave, he emerges to the waiting eyes of the cat and dog, Fluffers and Bite. Bite is hopping on his front feet, first left then right, and Fluffers is purring up against his legs. He turns on his blood power to be able to speak to animals, and first checks on Bite.
Hello, Bite, why are you so excited? Do you have to go outside?
Bite answers.
No, play. Other humans won't play anymore. One boring, other watching noise box. Play? Wait, outside yes, then play?
This is all said quickly to Zook, in yips and quiet barks, so that he could understand him. He walks up the stairs, of the hidden compartment room.
Okay, Bite, we can go out for a bit, 1 second.
He grabs Fluffers and holds her up to his eyes, like an awkward, non-parent would hold a baby, arms up, holding up at the shoulders, legs dangling down, looking into her eyes.
Do you need anything, Fluffers?
She answers in purrs, and meows.
No, my non-human, I'm okay, but this doesn't feel good. Try again.
He holds her trying to cradle her in his arms, like his arms are a hammock.
Better?
Yes, better but still strange. What are we doing tonight, and when can we get a place where I can run around more, like your underground place? This room is small and boring.
Do you mean, this house?
He asks, wondering if she means the small house they now lived in.
Yes. Non-human, human talk is hard. Can I go out and play with other animal? The other humans here won't let me.
Sure.
He answers, dropping her to the ground. Bud is sitting watching the TV and Steve is walking around the perimeter, as usual. Steve turns to look, once Zook steps up onto the ground floor, and looks away, like he recognized the added person in his field of view, and has more to cover.
Taking the critters outside.
He calls out, and the two humans, his employees, look up and acknowledge this. Before getting outside, Zook has them both sit down in front of the door, and talks to them once more before they dart outside. He has to address them separately.
Bite, now the cat is coming out also. Do not attack, but you can chase, do not run far, or no treats for you when you come inside.
The dog's face nods up and down, with his tongue flopping out. He turns to Fluffers saying the same, and gets a plain, non-committal lick of her paw.
Fluffers?
He asks, expecting an answer from her. The cat rolls her eyes.
Okay, fine, non-human, I'll play nice, and won't run far. Can we go?
He opens the door, and they dart outside, checking out what they consider their territory once again. Fluffers is more curious, looking around bushes and jumping on top of things. Bite just sniffs around at almost everything within 100-meter circle. Somehow, his pets brought a smile to his face, a genuine one, not one to pretend he cared about something else. Animals were so much more simple than humans, such an easy life. Other than how he met Fluffers. The little playful dog runs up to him with a ball within minutes, which wasn't theirs, and drops it at his feet. He turns on the blood power once again.
Where did you get this ball?
His answer back.
Ball, yes. Throw it?
He can't help but smile. This is a fairly new complex, barely anyone is around, and the dog finds a ball. It is pretty old and messy, but he picks it up and throws it anyway. The dog chases it, and the cat dashes over to his side, chasing the ball with him. It is adorable. The cat gets to the ball early about half of the time, but only grips the ball in her mouth twice, and couldn't do it anymore. She brings it back, and drops it, getting it out of her mouth, and looks up at him to throw it yet again. After a couple more times, she stops chasing the ball, and her goal changes to pouncing on Bite after he picks it up. After about 30 minutes of necessary pet playtime, he brings them in for sweet foods, aka treats, and lets Bud know they have to get out to Sammy's place. Bud turns off the TV, and gets moving. They get to the golf course clubhouse. The place is bouncing with thumping music. About a dozen people are walking around and talking to others, drinking, and having a good time. He goes on in, no one stopping him. Sammy sees him while going around, and walks over to him, whispering in his ear.
I'm talking to each of them separately, so that they won't suspect anything bad. Talking to one soon, then Sue after him. You can come in when I'm talking with her. Just give me a couple of minutes to have them make sure nothing strange is going on.
Zook nods, and goes to the kitchenette, where all the food and drinks are, not meaning to have any of it. After one man, nearly 5 minutes pass, he calls out to find Sue, and a woman walks up to the door and walks in. Zook gives them a few minutes to settle in, and walks over to knock silently. Someone else opens the door, and lets him in, and that someone leaves the room and closes the door. Zook walks into the room, and sits in the empty chair, Sue in another, and Sammy on the other side of the desk. Sue is smiling.
Hey there, handsome. What are you doing in here? This is our meeting.
Yes, Sue, this is our meeting.
Sammy answers her. He doesn't look surprised about the addition of an extra person, making her face show how nervous she is.
Sue, this here is Zook. He is a friend of mine. He has some questions he'd like to ask you, and I'd like to know some of those answers as well, so please let him know what he asks about.
She squirms for a few seconds, then attempts to get up and leave, but she is asked to sit so nicely by this additional person that she feels comfortable sitting back down. The stranger to her asks,
Sue, we have a mutual friend, Patricia. She has been coming to you with some goods that have fallen off of a truck, so to speak, and you have been helping her make a little money from that. That is all fine, it is business, but what isn't business, is we think there has been a little info given to others about this little arrangement, and perhaps a little extra money exchanging hands. Again, this is all expected, but now we have a situation. You see, I've been hired by this person to check on the problem. You will tell me the truth. Have you told anyone else about Patricia Moorhead?
He almost loses his concentration on the activation of his blood power, due to a snicker from Sammy. The woman in the room answers, with strain easy to see on her forehead, and blush showing on her cheeks, trying not to answer.
Pat? Sure, she has been fencing things with me for a couple of years now. Drugs, a few stolen things here and there. Recently, a few people came to me asking for some info. They intimidated and pushed me around, and there was just something about them. I couldn't stop myself from blurting out info. Sort of like, here. And, now. I've been wondering things about Pat, how she's been getting some merch, and told those few guys where the stuff was coming from. I found out that they are with the Bloody Crushers. I told them to check on her. I thought they were going to kill me.
Zook and Sammy lean back a bit, in their chairs. The Bloody Crushers are another gang in the city. Someone with them can also apparently manipulate people's minds. Could be a vampire like him, there are millions of them. He hasn't heard of anyone messing with them in the organization. Zook continues.
How did Pat know about Sammy?
Still having her enthralled to his deep and calm eyes, she is unable to resist. Sue's cheeks redden, as she attempts to resist her blabbing.
Over one of our conversations a while ago, she was worried about some prime product she was getting rid of, and I tried to not give away any info, but she convinced me to talk after massaging her hands to stop them from shaking. There is just something about her. When she looks scared or nervous, she knows how to take the edge off. I told her I worked for someone who has my back and handled a lot within the city. I didn't exactly tell her about Sammy, but it did slip that he owned the golf course here. I thought she was just some harmless accountant girl.
Zook, still having her in his thrall, tells her to stay seated, cover her ears, and hum. She would not hear or listen to anything until he uncovered her ears, and she complied with his demand.
So, what do you want to do with her? You can either do the nasty thing, or I can help you keep her as an employee. Is she good enough to keep?
She is one of the good ones, yeah, and she is easy on the eyes. I would like to keep her on the payroll, but I'll give her a pay cut. I also have a different frontman she could use. To show that decrease, can you make her try to work with him? His name is Walter. That would be appreciated. I don't like the messy part of the job I sometimes need to do.
Hey, a woman's life is safe compared to the alternative. Both of them are getting sentimental in their old age. Zook takes Sue's arms away from her ears, and says she can stop humming. She can't help but gaze into his eyes again. This stranger, as basic as he looks, knows how to talk to her. Sammy is able to see Zook manipulate a human's mind so completely, for the first time, and he has to admit, it is a nicer alternative than some. Others would have to try to deal with this sort of problem in other, more unsettling ways. Usually with a lot more force and having to do worse things. He forces her mind into the thought that Sammy is just a middleman, a low man on the totem pole within the city, and she didn't care about him anymore. He wasn't even on her radar. She would never mention his name again unless he authorized her to mention him. Walter, a man she knows, would be her contact. If she thinks it is different, or has any lists of names or numbers, she is incorrect, and needs to update them. She doesn't remember why she would be taking a pay cut, but she'd be okay with it, because it would be more work, so she would get more. She would never try to find out the hierarchy of the group, and doesn't care, as long as she is getting a percentage. She wouldn't talk to anyone about Walter either, but he would be the man she would talk to, in order to drop off other goods. Next, he edits their conversation. She is not able to remember this discussion at all. The last 15 minutes are a blur to her. She came into Sammy's office because she wanted to talk to him about Walter, which she did. She wouldn't remember the stranger coming in, and never caught his name. He only came in to ask this guy something real quick and left. She doesn't remember his face, anything he wears, none of it. When they are done, she would walk back to the party and act just as she is acting before walking into Sammy's office. After all that, he can't think of much else that he needs to change in her mind, so he lets her go to finish up the night of the party. He looks over at Sammy and asks to make sure.
Will you get with Walter to make sure that it all sticks? If she realizes something, she might start asking questions about it. She won't remember the stuff eventually. This isn't really a mental wall sort of thing that she could break through. Her mind is now convinced of the difference.
I already sent him a text and he'll be getting in touch with her, like he has been her main handler all along. Thanks for the help, Zook. If this were only a few years ago, I'd have to get rid of her. Hey, I have this other guy that...
He tries to start with Zook. Zook raises his hand to stop him.
Nope, doesn't pertain to the job right now, but sure, eventually. Remind me later. He winks at the other man, and it looks like a heavy weight lifts from Sammy's shoulders. He answers.
Thanks again, old man. You ever need anything, get in touch.
He walks over offering his hand for a shake, which Zook grabs, and shakes firmly.
Will do.
He answers back with an enthusiastic handshake. He leaves the small manager's room, and joins the rest of them in the clubhouse about to leave. Sammy offers.
Hey, if you'd like any blood, I wouldn't mind if you asked for some around the party.
Zook raises an eyebrow.
No, thanks, I don't.
He pauses for a second, thinking of how to put it.
A T-Rex doesn't like to be fed, he wants to hunt.
Sammy smiles, and nods. This isn't exactly true either, he just didn't want to get in trouble with his friends, he has other avenues for blood he would rather use. Back in his car, he has a few things to think about. He knows of the Bloody Crushers, a bunch of thugs that a lot of the organization dips into every once in a while for a quick naughty job. This is branching out for them, or something else is happening here. He gets another text from the client for the job. Patricia has texted him once again, during his activities with Sammy, and he guesses a human might be nervous in her situation. He texts her back he is on the way. He presses the speaker to talk up front.
Hey bud, we are seeing the client, head on over, I'll give you the address.
They get to her apartment building. She is in a suburb of the city, just outside of it. It is close to midnight, and the apartment complex where she lives is on the mid-scale these days. Bud asks,
Hey boss, do you want me to switch books, while you are up there? We have listened to Hitchhiker's Guide series a few times.
That's fine bud, keep it going, it hopefully won't take long.
He walks on up to her place on the second floor, and knocks. The client opens the door with still wet hair, but she is drying it with a towel. She's wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants. She looks better than when she presented herself, at their first meet and greet. The t-shirt is a little bit faded, the sweatpants are grey, but it only adds to her character. Again, he could care less about the woman's body, not that he is able to see hers in her baggy outfit. The personality that shows on her face is as sharp as a tack, and even though she has been drinking, probably a lot, her eyes light up when she sees him. The place is lit up like she doesn't want to see any shadows around any corner, which is probably the case. Her body is outlined in a sort of discolored glow from the doorway. Her hair shines bright from her lighting, giving her a tone he could only describe as living. She stretches open the door to allow him to come in. In the back of his mind, he is glad the whole only could go into a home, when invited in, is a bunch of crap. Rumors centuries ago were faked to add to their mystery, and to help them trick humans. Her eyes cover him from head to toe, darting around his body. She looks alert and very observant for a drunk human. Her face is clean, no longer showing the sweat-covered brow, but pale skin, with thought wrinkles on her forehead. She isn't wearing makeup. It is late, and she is at the door, with wet hair, just after a shower. He likes the look. Most modern women over the past many decades load their faces with chemicals. She can be wearing a beggar's clothes, and he could find the character in her stature. Her grace, however, suffers when she closes the door, and directs him into her apartment. Now that something is happening in her case, now that she has someone to help, it likely has taken a weight off of her shoulders, and she feels much better. She walks over to the couch and sits down, and she bluntly asks if she can hear anything about the case. She looks at him like she wants to know, needs to know, and that she can handle it. His interest piques to try to ease her mind, but he knows people well. If she finds out the info that is known, it would likely scare her more than help. He says he knows who likely has the books, and he would try to figure things out with them. He uses his ability to look at her aura, a blood power that he learned from someone quite some time ago. Looking at the spiritual aura of someone can tell a vampire, or anyone else that can see it, many things. Unless that aura is manipulated by another, it will tell someone's mood, if turmoil is going on in their head, and if they have a magical or paranormal secret life. If he is looking at the aura of a vampire, human, werewolf, or wizard, he could tell, but from what he could tell, she is just a plain scared, and very drunk human. He also catches some attraction, the kind where it would be directed towards another, and he is the only one in the room. Could be because he is helping her, or it could be from other things. To the mundane, such as Patricia, He looks like a creep, scrutinizing her body, from head to toe, and her face blushes under that gaze. He hears her speak, breaking him out of the use of his ability. Quietly she asks,
"Please don't stare at me."
Zook looks away, not exactly forgetting his manners, but feeling shame for being so forward with the use of his ability. He apologizes.
I'm sorry, you just remind me of someone, and... Never mind, I'm sorry. I have figured some things out, and will do what I can to help you. Give me maybe another couple of nights, this isn't so simple of a job. I'll let you know when I can. Call out sick if you want, if you have sick time, just let me figure things out. I'm usually very professional, but you get something else in my head.
Can you stay with me for a bit tonight? I feel better with someone here.
If Zook could blush, he certainly would, but his face is stoic, trying to be stoic after such a blunt question. As interested as he might be in her, all that physical stuff is long gone, and it is tough to feed on clients while on the job. There can be attachments, and things sometimes get messy. He answers back, with difficulty.
Sorry, wish I could, but I have so many things to get done. My place might be safer, but it wouldn't work out well. I'm actually staying at a friend's place. Get a hotel room and stay there. You probably should avoid the mini bar.
You'd be drinking too, if you were in so much trouble.
He smiles back at the irony of her statement. Blood certainly does help when he is in trouble. He can fuel his body, and blood powers to help him. He isn't so big on the fighting though. There are plenty of others that did that sort of stuff. He is more into dealing with people. When he really needs to, he can knock someone cold by fueling his strength, but it would take a bit for that. He sits next to her on the couch trying to comfort her.
Patricia, you need to grab a couple of bags and get a hotel room. I'll get in contact tomorrow and let you know what I can find.
Finding it difficult not to grab her and kiss her neck, taking some of her blood, one of the most intimate things he does to anyone these days. He usually isn't this intimate even with those he fed from, and she just wants comfort. She whispers,
God, I'm such an idiot.
Seconds later, he realizes where her ear is, against his chest, right where his heart should be beating. Chapter 3. He pulls away, feigning the desire to get off of the couch, and out of the place.
You are a client, and we are getting a little too close. Just get some things and get a room, we'll chat later.
He walks himself out of the apartment, as she is staying seated pouring herself more wine from the coffee table. He wonders, quietly to himself, if humans even use them for coffee anymore. He gets back downstairs to get to his car. Bud just made it to the restaurant at the end of the universe, still in the Hitchhiker's Guide series, and is waiting. He opens his door and gets in. Bud sees him getting in from the side view mirror, and starts to pull out to get back to the city. He opens his door and gets in. Bud sees him getting in from the side view mirror, and pulls out to get back to the city. Zook lets Bud know.
Man, that woman does something to me.
He says, between parts of the story.
Don't they all? Where to, boss?
Calls Bud. He answers back.
I need to see the Bloody Crushers, but I don't know where they hunker down, but I know someone who might. Take me to the dance studio. I need to see if one of the town officials can meet me there.
Bud turns down another street.
Got it, boss.
Is the simple reply. Zook texts Paul, asking for an assist. He's one of the fastest and best fighters within the city. He wonders if he might help with his situation, but sort of doubts it, not without a major favor. Paul is a protector and right-hand man to the boss, and unless it is directly vampiric business, it isn't his problem. He certainly made a difference during the fight with the Fang some time ago, but if he got into helping everyone with their problems, he might not be around for the important stuff. Maybe for a few thousand in hazard pay, but he hates owing people favors. He certainly likes collecting them though, might save his ass, one day. Paul texts him back, saying he is at the dance studio with Zant. They are discussing city business. He returns the text, asking if it is one of those family secret meetings, or if he could come by. The reply says he can come by. It wasn't one of those types of meetings, so they make it there after some more riding. Making it there after a bit, he sees the usual guards outside, which he waves to on his way through. They allow him in, knowing him and having checked him recently. Another is looking down at him from an outside wicker chair, a sort of lookout, with the blood power to see more than the regular blood-fueled humans, or ghouls. He walks through the initial room of benches, for those who might wait on dance students to the left and right of a short hallway. Next is the small room, a waist-high counter to Zook standing in front of it, the usual chair where no one sat at this time. It usually is empty, unless they were having an expectantly large gathering, or it is raining, then there usually is someone watching. It looks like tonight they didn't expect anything suspicious. He pushes open the swinging door to the main studio hall, and sees a couple of groups there, chatting at their usual tables, set up in their usual places, possibly plotting his demise, or whatever they might be doing. He didn't think he is really on anyone's radar. Paul steps towards him, away from Zant, and asks,
"Is this city important, or just business related?"
Business related. I need to find the bloody crushers in the city. They probably stole from a client of mine. I want to see if I can get a couple of things back.
Paul answers,
I do not know much about them. I know that Mick works with them on some stuff. See if he can let you know. You might want to find out some stuff from him anyways. If you start some trouble, he might get upset if some guys can't walk and talk anymore.
Zook nods in thanks, and walks over to PT, who is over in one area with other misfits, that he often speaks to, when his blood family members aren't around for the night.
Petey?
He raises his voice, and nods his head upwards as he is walking up to the often difficult to work with man. Petey looks up, sees Zook, and nods back, then waves at him about 50 feet away. As soon as Zook gets about 15 feet out, without warning, a deep growl is heard from Petey, and he pounces on Zook with his teeth dropped from his mouth, biting Zook's arm with his deep sharpened fangs. Zook screeches like a surprised dog, and falls back to the ground, with Petey on top of him, and punches him in the face.
Petey, get a hold of yourself.
He shouts, punching him in the face again. Paul twists his body in a circle checking to see if someone is trying to surprise him again, but doesn't see anyone, and takes a few quick steps toward the scuffle. Petey drinks some of Zook's blood, taking the rich nectar of the other vampire into his body. Zook twists his body, slamming Petey's skull into the dance studio's hardwood floor. Petey licks Zook's arm to heal the wound, then licks his teeth and lips in surprise. His eyes widen.
Holy moly, is this your blood?
He asks him.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Asks Zook, checking his coat.
Damn it, now there are 2 holes punctured into the arm, since I couldn't dodge you, and your teeth punched right through it.
Crap, I just lost it, Zook. I'm not even thirsty. I don't even know where that came from. Here, take some of mine.
Petey extends his arm, trying to bring it up, in apology.
Oh sheesh, hell no, I won't drink any of your messed up blood, but you owe me for that, you damn weasel.
Petey has a couple of blood family members around, and they stand up, not appreciating the comment. Petey calls out.
Wait. All my fault, I'm sorry.
He looks back at those who are around. He wants to get ahead of this before it starts something nasty.
No, he has a right to be angry.
Sorry, that was a bit too far, but it is our blood, man. Make this up to me then, tell me where I can find Mick. I need to check with him about the bloody crushers.
I'm sorry, guy, I can't tell you about the bloody crushers, but Mick might be able to help. He is actually going to be coming by, in a bit.
He answers, not realizing that is sort of what Zook is asking. Zook rolls his eyes, and nods.
Gee, thanks Petey, can you text him, to see if he can come earlier?
He checks his arm again. The damage is gone from Petey's teeth, after he instinctively licked them after pulling his teeth out. He wipes it down by moving his jacket around, but that feels gross. He asks if someone has some paper towels around, and one of Petey's family grabs it off of a shelf and gives it to him to wipe down his arm and jacket. He got a bunch of these jackets on sale a long while ago. He just hates going through them, and getting them repaired is a pain. People didn't do that anymore. Then having to have them repaired is like having a bunch of scars on your skin when they didn't heal. Zook hasn't had that reaction with Petey, but those outbursts from his family are common. They don't always do well in controlling themselves, or their beasts, the vampiric spirit in all of them. Petey did send out the message, and only a bit early, Mick does show up. He hasn't had this problem with Petey or his blood family, but tonight is the night for annoyances. After Mick is able to speak to a few around the room, Zook gets his attention, and asks for a few minutes to talk. Before they get started, Mick asks,
"Hey Zook, do you know what happened with your retainer, friend, buddy, and that courthouse lady?"
Zook smiles.
Yeah, they got their groove on.
Mick smiles back, and says,
"Nice,"
and puts his hand up for a high five. These guys are always strange. He obliges the gesture, and Mick says he will congratulate his driver before they leave. A very human guy thing. Zook brings up what he needs.
Hey Mick, do you have any dealings with the Bloody Crushers? They robbed a client of mine, and they can keep most of it, but they took some books she needs.
Mick asks,
"Books? Who needs books? She can buy them again, right?"
Sheesh. Dealing with these guys. He answers,
No, these are more like journals, and she needs them back. They have numbers and information for a job of hers.
Mick winks.
Ah, I get it now. That is strange that they took it. It isn't usual for them. I wouldn't be able to get them back just by asking, and I would appreciate it if you didn't drop them all. I have a few deals with them in the works. If they start dropping, they'll hunker down and no one will find them for a bit. I can come and try to help you get them back though. If you can distract them, I'll find the books if I can. If they don't play nice, you can just get out, and I'll take them. You sure know how to liven things up around here."
Zook answers, glad he doesn't have to owe any favors for it.
I'm not sure how.
Petey comes over.
Now, that is something I gotta see. When do we leave?
Zook shakes his head.
No Petey, you stay here. I don't appreciate it when people surprise and bite me for no reason.
Hey, I bit you for a reason. I thought you were corn.
Corn? Wait, when did you last eat corn?
Petey looks shocked as he answers.
I was a chicken, and you were corn. I don't understand why you are confused. You know what, I am offended. You know what, just go.
He waves his hands in dismissal. Zook looks back at Mick.
Will you please be able to help me? At this point, we'll need to try tomorrow night. If you let me know where they usually hang out, you can try to take the books if I can distract them.
Mick nods, happy to help as long as he might not need to get in the middle of things. Petey sulks and walks away. Mick walks with him out of the door, and discusses where to meet the next night. Mick walks up to Bud, and sticks out his hand. Bud has the car window down listening to an audiobook on a cool night.
"Congrats."
For what?
Bud asks, looking over at his boss wondering how he should be reacting. Zook shrugs, and lifts up his thumb, giving him the okay.
"For the other night. With the courthouse lady. She looked interested."
Bud's cheeks add a little blush, awkwardly shaking the offered hand. Bud looks over at Zook.
Boss?
We are meeting him tomorrow night, downtown at a squatter's den, where the gang hangs out, to see if we can talk nice about the books, and take them if we can't. You and Steve are coming.
Bud smiles, happy for a change of pace. Mick walks back into the dance studio, and Zook gets into the car, to drive back home for the night. On the ride, he texts the client to let him know where she is staying, for the next couple of nights.